We are going to talk about 4 things that separate the rich from the poor. If you are looking around and see people from your neighborhood, from different social and economical statuses and situations and different academic levels, I can be almost 100% sure that you will meet people from the same academic level who make it, and you meet people who don't make it. Financial wise, it's very important distinction, because making it or making it in life can mean very, very different things. But on this channel, I'm going to talk about systems and businesses. So I'm basically measuring it right now in financial terms. Someone might have a worse financial situation, but a better quality of life or relationships, but that's a completely different story. So if you take a look at people who, let's say, finished on an engineering degree at college, you might probably meet people who don't make it, who start to work for a company and basically work in the same role forever and until they retire. And you will probably see people from the very same college or university who become millionaires in that certain field or maybe in another field, but they become millionaires. And the same way, you will meet broke people who really come from the very bottom of society financial-wise and then stay there. And you'll also meet people who start from the very bottom and go to the very top and, again, become millionaires. If you think of it a little bit, you can see that there is no really a correlation between IQ or academic level and financial success. You can also take a look at happiness, right? There are people who are happy and millionaires and unhappy and still millionaires. And the same way, who are broke and still happy, and people that are broke and unhappy. So there are not really a correlation either. Obviously, if you have more money, you have more freedom and you can live a better quality life, which contributes to your happiness. So I'm not saying entirely that there's no correlation, but it's not like 100% correlation. You can take a look at various different variables, but there are only 4 things that really 100% correlates with being poor or staying poor or becoming rich. And so the commonality in all these 4 categories that I'm going to expand on very shortly is that they are all using leverage. So I could also say that there is really one thing that makes the difference between the poor and the rich. It's called leverage, but there are 4 categories that would make more sense and would be more understandable what I mean by leverage. So the first category of leverage is called content. There are 3 examples that I could tell you like what I mean by this. So the first content category, I would say, is content for marketing. Imagine that you are walking door to door. It's not very efficient. You have 2 legs, obviously, and there are a fixed distance between the doors and there are fixed amount of streets that you can walk in one certain day, right? Let's say you are a very good sportsman and then you can do, 300 doors. If you can do more, and I'm lowballing it to the industry, let me know in the comments. But let's say you can do 300 doors a day. You knock on the door, they either say yes or no, you have a certain conversion rate, and then one day you can do 300 sales pitches, 300 people, right? Let's say if you would do the same thing to an email list of 30,000 people, and then you can write the copy once and then you can blast it out to the 30,000 people all at once. Which one is more effective? Obviously, the second one. So this is really the leverage where mostly you use technology, but there is a separate category for this in terms of content, because the content itself is the text that you send or the content that you make as a video, and that can be shown to 1 million people all at once. If you have the reach, if you have the good communication skills in writing or in audio or in video, right? So really the only differentiator is going to be how good you speak on camera, how good you speak on audio, and how well you can type copy. The second content category is content as a product. Well, it's very similar to marketing, but the pitch is exchanged to the fulfillment, right? So if you have something that you service online and the fulfillment would take you a certain amount of time, and then you do it one by one. So if you sell 1,000 customers and you do one by one, obviously that's less efficient than if you create sort of like a productized service that you can replicate using code. Case of like a course where you explain a certain concept or you show how it's done and then the person can do it for themselves. It's typically do-it-yourself, DIY, a service that agencies, consultants are constantly using. It's one of the products from their product ladder, right? So it's a pretty commonly used, but if you think of it as a leverage, then you're gonna take a look at it very differently. And then the third part, if you have employees, then you can train or onboard your employees or even the clients if they have to do something for you to be more efficient. So if you are an agency owner, let's say, or you onboard a lot of clients or a lot of students, if you are a consultant, for example, then you can teach them how to use the systems that you are going to use during the collaboration. And basically, you don't have to tell them one by one how to use the systems that you are using. Or if you hire a new employee for a sales role or for a client fulfillment role, it's enough if you record the material where you teach someone once, and then you can replay that 1,000 times over. The second big bucket is going to be code. Well, I would also say that Meta and Google and its algorithms, when you are doing and running paid ads, are kind of considered here. I mean, it's a mix of multiple ones because first you use content, right? You write text, you make a video or an image, and then you start running ads, right? You also spend some money on it, so it's not just code, it's money, it's content, but from a tech point of view, the technology, the AI technology that you are using in the back is basically code, and the delivery is done by code. So this can fall into this category. Fall into this category as well. But what is more purely code is if you make different automations with tools like Zapier and Make.com, or if you use CRM systems and if you start to onboard clients or students and then you just make a change in a certain field in a CRM system and then it all onboards them, makes different folders for them, then it's all done by automation. You don't need a person to actually do these kind of things. Let me say another example. In a sales process, if one of the person who is interested in your services books a call, then you don't have to manually send out reminder emails or materials they can prepare from to your call when they arrive to your call. So these are all automations done by code. More recent ones, I would say a few examples with AI. If you use an AI phone voice caller as an appointment setter, for example, if you have a large list, you don't have to call them manually. If you are really good with AI, then you can create a voice caller automation, kind of like a salesperson or appointment center of yours, and then that could call them and talk to the people who are interested in your services. Same with AI chatbots. If there is a chatbot on your website and then there are questions that needs to be answered, then your chatbot can communicate with the people who lands on your website. So these are all automations where you don't need to include employees. Well, when you are here, you have physical tools that you actually use in your business. You might consider that may be a separate bucket when you are using physical tools like a hammer or a truck or a car or something that you need, or if you are a painter, then the brush and stuff. I would also consider not the tools that you use with your hands, but for example, if there is a production machinery that does like 1,000 pieces of metal that you eventually sell, it's more like an e-com example, I would say. But that can also be considered code. I know that it's a physical machinery that actually produces something, but still, you don't need to be there necessarily. I mean, if there is an operator needed, of course, but you don't need to be there as a business owner to run that thing, right? Or maybe you need to stand next to it to secure that it works properly. But once it's set up and it starts producing, you just basically quality check if it works properly. So if there is physical machinery, I would also consider to have it here. Let's jump on the third category, which are employees, humans. There are things that don't do themselves, right? Even if you think of the content category or the code category, I just mentioned operators with the machinery, or the Zapier and Make.com integrations, there needs to be someone like a systems integrator, or in case of the content, there needs to be an editor, there needs to be a camera person, or someone who actually records the content and then posts the content, or there needs to be a copywriter or someone who works for you. You can do things for yourself, obviously, and the natural order of these is actually in the order how I started to tell these. First, you should focus on content, and then second, you should automate everything that you can, and that's when you jump to the third option, which is employees. The very last automation type, if you will, or leverage type, to put it nicely, is people. The reason why you should always go in this order and having employees at last is because it's very quick to make automations and repetitive tasks. It's easy to scale. So for example, if you want to issue invoices after every purchase, or if you want to make an onboarding flow after every purchase, your salesperson don't have to tell your VA every time they sell something. It just automatically gets created and gets sent out. So for example, if your VA is working in another time zone and then when the sale happens, he or she is sleeping, then it's not a good customer experience to have those things sent out, not like manually, not automatically. So this should be the order, and whenever you try to automate something or implement a leverage in your business, there should be always content, code, and employees in this order. And the reason why I didn't jump over to the fourth category is because it's a little bit different than the previous three. And I'm going to expand on this because the fourth one is called capital or money, let's say. That's also a leverage. You can spend money and buy back time. This way you can create a leverage for yourself, right? If you don't want to do something, you hire someone and then that person does it for you. So you see, when you spend money and you have capital, you probably, as long as you are running a business or operating a business, you will always spend the money on either of these three categories, right? Code, content, or employees. And that's the reason why I separated this. So if you reach a point where you have so much money, you can still use the money by itself, let's say, and purchase real estate. The real estate is kind of the bricks working for you, so it doesn't do anything. People just live in the house and then they pay rent and then you make money. Or another example can be Bitcoin, where you purchase at $50,000 and then a few weeks later, if you are in a bull market, then it goes up to $80,000. You didn't really buy code, content, or employees. You didn't really create any business value, or nothing really happened. So when you purchase the real estate, it just stays there and people live in the house. Or Bitcoin doesn't do anything. Or gold, if you purchase gold and you just keep it in gold bars and you don't move it, you don't do anything, these are not doing anything. But when you reach a certain level of wealth, these are not kind of operational and business and, let's say, production manifestations of the money. This is just keeping a value or store of value usage, I would rather say. So this is why I would separate this kind of capital from the capital that you are using in your business, because you will spend it either on employees, code, or content. So these are the four leverage categories that will differentiate the poor from the rich. And so whenever you are trying to get rich or trying to build your business or increase your revenue or your quality of life, you always have to think in one of these categories. And before you would leave, let me add a little bit of a caveat to it. These are the leverage, but if you leverage the wrong thing, you will get more of the wrong thing. So it's also very important to leverage the good stuff, right? The thing that you want more of. If you climb the wrong ladder, it doesn't matter how fast you can climb or how many employees you have to climb it with you, you will not get so far. So if you are in a market that's declining, or if you are in a market where there is not much demand of the product or the service, and over time it's going to decline, then it's not going to save you by spending more on employees, content, and code. You have to find the right market, for example. Also, I mentioned in the beginning of the video that being smart, or your IQ level or your academic level, doesn't matter as much. Even though it's not 100% correlated to your success or to the people around you who have success, but it still somewhat contributes. If you go to university and you learn a high value skill, so if you become a doctor or you become an engineer, obviously if you are staying an employee, you are going to make more money than people who have lower value skill, because it's harder to do it. It requires a smaller amount of the population finishes university actually, and less people will have that specific knowledge. So you can still apply all the leverages. You can make content as an engineer, or you can build a business as an engineer. And that's going to be a lot bigger opportunity eventually, because you can affect more people's lives. So you can still be a rock star content creator like Elon Musk, and he is still an engineer. That guy builds rockets, and he's actively participating in the design of the rockets and the design of the Tesla car models. So he does have a bigger opportunity because he also solves bigger and bigger issues, but he still uses leverage by hiring people, by buying machinery, and so on. So take these 4 leverage points with a little bit of a caveat. You don't necessarily need to disregard all the learning and all the high-end skills if you want to pursue that. You just have to take this into account, that the things that will really matter are the leverage points, and that's what you should really focus on. Well, I hope you liked this video, and see you in the next one.